That's it for the weather. Now let's check in on the Earth Run map. Our first stop is Israel, where a new generation got the chance to run for peace. Through the hills of the Holy Land, the torch, which symbolizes peace and hope, was passed on to the children of Israel. And they did their share to carry and to cheer it into the city of Jerusalem and on to the Knesset. From there to the Ivory Coast and the city of Abidjan, to a grand welcome from President Houphouët-Boigny. From Abidjan to Kenya, President Moi lights the torch from the miner's lamp. And the flame of peace is lit in the city of Nairobi. Today, the Earth Run is in Bahrain, Sunday, Tanzania, next week on through India and Nepal. Well, that's it for weather. Now let's check in on the Earth Run. The Torch of Peace is about halfway along its round-the-world journey. This morning we start off in Lagos, Nigeria. Steel drums and more than 1,000 runners escorted the flame through Tafawa Balewa Square. Then to National Stadium, where President Ibrahim Babangida shared the torch with native son Abbas Muhammad, en route to the final lighting ceremony. Next stop, Uganda, where America's Phil Weingarner is greeted by his fellow runners, and the torch is lit by Culture Minister Charles Ofumbi.
In the name of peace, we light the world peace, and this symbolizes that in Uganda, we advocate peace. Peace in the world.
Later, at the State House in Entebbe, an Earth Run medal for Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni. Dancers greeted the torch in Ethiopia. Then runners Salim Hasham and Linda Hood carried the flame to Addis Ababa Stadium, where President Mengistu Haile Mariam reigned supreme. Then out of Africa to New Delhi, India, where President Zail Singh passes the torch to Olympic runner Milkha Singh. Then the Peace Jogathon to Indira Gandhi Stadium. Where the torch is presented to India's Sports Minister, Margaret Alva, and the Executive Director of UNICEF, James Grant. Today, the Earth Run torch continues through India, then it's on to Nepal and Bangladesh. Joan and Charlie?
All right, thank you, Spencer. It is now 10 minutes after 11.
Well, that's it for the weather. Now let's check in on the Earth Run. So far, the first Earth Run has traveled through 29 countries, and today we pick it up in Africa at the border of Kenya and Tanzania. The torch left Kenya to the chant of peace, and the people of Tanzania received the flame with the same hope and respect. And the torch is passed from hand to hand among the Maasai people. Bahrain, the temperature topped 100 degrees. The Amir lit the torch at his residence, and the country's top runner, Ahmed Hamada, led the way to the sports stadium, where the Amir greeted the runners after the relay. On to the Himalayas. At the base of Mount Everest, Donna Di Verona hands the flame to the next Everest expedition.
And also with me, David Brashears, who's the first American ever to summit Mount Everest twice, and because of that accomplishment, you are custodian of this torch.
Thank you, Donna. The expedition's really happy to be participating in the first Earth Run.
From the roof of the world to the edge of the sea, Jean-Michel Cousteau took the flame to the underwater realm he knows so well. It's passed from diver to diver, and they add their names to the more than 2 million people who have helped carry the flame around the world. Now today, the Earth Run is in Beijing, and tomorrow Shanghai, then on to Japan, Thailand, and Southeast Asia.
the Earth Run runners, and the Earth Runners will take us all the way to Shangri-La this morning. I'm Joan Lennon. It is Friday, November the 14th.
Those kids make it to this new program, Good Morning China. That's what we're doing here today.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm Charles Gibson, sitting in for David Hartman. He's away today.
Well, that's it for the weather. Now let's go halfway around the world to check in on the first Earth Run. Our first stop this morning is Nepal. The snow-capped Himalayas form a natural amphitheater for the sights and sounds of Nepal. The singers and the dancers, and for its royalty. Prince Gyanendra here in Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha, the prince lighting the Earth Run's eternal flame of peace. And then to the palace grounds in Kathmandu, where King Virendra passes the torch to the runners who'll keep the flame and its journey alive. In China, hundreds of runners take part as the flame wends its way toward the Great Wall. At first, just a ribbon on the mountains above, but up close, the fortress that protected an empire. And finally, the lost horizon, Lhasa, Tibet. The Earth Run torch now in the hands of the British-American Mount Everest expedition. The runners en route to a ceremony of triumph beneath the Buddhist monastery known as the Potala. The Earth Run flame is in Japan and Malaysia today, working its way through Southeast Asia towards Indonesia.
It's 8:07, and it's time to check in on the first Earth Run. This morning, we follow the torch of peace through the Far East. Our first stop, Japan. Fittingly, the Japanese leg of Earth Run began in Nagasaki, devastated by the atomic bomb in World War II, but looking now with hope to the future. The torch of peace, symbolic of that hope, carried in hand and in spirit to Hiroshima and beyond. Then to Bangkok, a warm welcome for the Earth Run flame, and music to soothe the souls of the weary runners. Later, China's Qui Yulin gets a medal from Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister. And later still, passes the torch to the governor of Bangkok. And finally, Bangladesh, where the flame and the children have the final say.
Raise a flame of hope up high for all to see. Let's give the world a chance to join their voices and let the harmony shine through. For the children, for the future, raise a flame, hold it high and let it burn for peace and life.
It's 8:09.
Well, that's it for the weather. Now let's check in on the Earth Run. Now, so far, Earth Runners have traveled through Europe, the Middle East, Africa, India, and China. We picked them up in Japan, the Tokyo leg of the Earth Run. Began in the famous Ginza shopping district. It ended at the National Olympic Stadium, where the Peace Cauldron was lit by Tokyo Governor Shunichi Suzuki. Then it was on to Manila in the Philippines, where large crowds gathered in Lunette Park to hear President Corazon Aquino give her message of peace.
If those who believe in peace will only band together, that is why it is so important that we recognize the value of this project that so dramatizes the universal desire for peace.
Next stop, the Lao People's Democratic Republic, where 4,000 onlookers cheered a relay through the streets of Vientiane, the nation's capital. That night, the Peace Cauldron was lit at the presidential palace. Finally, to the beating of drums, the flame was welcomed in Malaysia. Later, the runners carried the torch through the capital, Kuala Lumpur. Their destination, Merdeka Stadium, where the flame of peace lit up the dark night. And today, the Earth Run is in the Australian capital of Canberra. Tomorrow, runners will be in 2 other Australian cities, Sydney and Brisbane, and there will also be a contingent in Rio de Janeiro.